Hey everyone, J7Jace here, bringing you a video all about the Sword Maiden of the Corpse Brigade, Miluda Fallas, from her appearance, background, story in FFT, and finally, her character analysis. Despite being in the game for just a short time, I think she definitely had an impact and influence on some major characters, like Ramza, Delita, and of course we Graf. So this one is for her. Regarding Miluda's appearance, there is no official art of her unless you count her portrait in sprite, but based on what we see, she looks very similar to that of a female knight, but with a much more stern face and slightly different hairstyle. Just like other female knights in random battles or other Corpse Brigade knights, her dress is brown and she wears a green cloak. With all these details in mind, I paid my artist, Ojanol, to do a fan art of her to give her more praise and recognition. I think it turned out nice in my opinion, and it honors Miluda well. As for her background, just like many bosses in Final Fantasy Tactics, her zodiac sign is a Virgo, just like her older brother Graf. But she is on the younger side, being 23 years of age. Her birthday is on September 4th as well. Before the events of FFT, during the 50-Year War, due to her lowborn status, she fought alongside her brother as one of his officers in the military group called the Dead Men. However, at the end of the war, they were denied their pay for their military service and even any kind of major recognition. As a result of this, the Dead Men became the Corpse Brigade and were determined to make things right by fighting versus the Order of the Northern Sky. Fast forward to the events of Final Fantasy Tactics, and she appears at the Brigand's Den, aka the Thieves' Fort, with a military force, saying that they have lost contact with the rest of their army and that they are lost as well. She does place the Corpse Brigade's dire situation or decline to be Graf's fault though, as he was too soft and indecisive, as you can see with two of his other officers, Gustav and Gragroth, betraying him, causing a major divide in the Corpse Brigade, although you could argue Gustav splitting up the group and weakening them to be Dystarg's and Larg's fault, as they did bribe him. Going back to the battle at the Brigand's Den, assuming if you don't finish the battles too quickly, she does speak her mind about her disdain for nobles. In Miluda's life, she had nothing but terrible experiences, as she explains that her and the other soldiers had to suffer with terrible food. Because of their lowborn status, they weren't respected and honored like others for their service during the 50-Year War, like the other noble warriors, such as the Beowulfs, for example. Argath does butt in, unfortunately, claiming they are mere animals from the moment they were born due to their common and lowborn status. Miluda does question this, but Argath makes a wild and false claim about it being the will of the gods, and she replies that he speaks of devils. Delita asks Ramza and questions if Miluda is truly the enemy. After she is defeated, she insists that Ramza kill her, because she is no more than chattel, although those were the words of Argath. Argath is relentless and considers her an enemy, mainly because she is a commoner and a Corpse Brigade soldier. Delita doesn't think of her as an enemy and even states that she is no more chattel than himself and Argath. Miluda is furious at being denied an honorable death and will always consider Ramza to be a sworn enemy because he is a Beowulf. The group ultimately lets her go, but Ramza and Delita question their roles in this war versus the brigade, and Argath does Argath things. The next and last time the group encounters Miluda, it's at Lanalian Plateau. Ramza and his Northern Sky forces block the pass. One of Miluda's knights suggests surrendering, but she dismisses the idea, and rather die as a true warrior than surrendering and being captured. As the battle goes on, Delita attempts to talk to her about Titra, but Miluda is not having it and considers Delita to be a noble, and she just gives him the silent treatment. Ramza attempts to talk to Miluda about what the issue is, but he doesn't know the true details about what happened in the past with the Corpse Brigade and their denial of pay and suffering after the 50-Year War. Even though Ramza wasn't involved directly and did no wrong to her personally, she hates him because he is naive about the situation, and more importantly, he is a Beowulf, and lived a much more privileged life without extreme suffering. As the battle continues, she continues to fight on, despite being critically injured. Ramza tries to reason with her once more, saying that they can find some kind of common ground, and that he'll talk to Dicedorg and Duke Larg. Miluda thinks he is lying and is intent on dying in battle, and soon after, her final words are "Forgive me, brother." She is mentioned a few more times in the game, mostly by Wheatgraph, and in War of the Lions, there is even an extra scene with Wheatgraph at Miluda's grave, which was a great addition. The last time her name gets mentioned is by Ramza at Riovanes, where Wheatgraph is no longer intent on getting revenge for Miluda, although I think at this point, Bellius is the one controlling and possessing Wheatgraph. Now for the final part of the video, it's my analysis of the character where I do a deep dive on their personality. As for Miluda, a large reason why she is so stubborn and set in her ways, hating nobles, was because her and the dead men weren't compensated or honored after the 50-Year War, and they were left starving with terrible food. I don't think the game specifies any dates of when this exactly happened, but I want to say Miluda participated in this conflict when she was a good bit younger, considering she is 23 years old in FFT. Despite being stuck in a certain mindset, she can still be rational and realize things, as she points out that the brigade is in decline because Wheatgraph was simply too nice. This also carries over into her conversation with Argath about the differences in opinions over the social status of lowborns and nobles. She is quick to point out that both groups of people are humans, and that nobles don't know what it's like to suffer, as they never experienced such hardships like starvations or poor living conditions. What she and the Corpse Brigade did was fight in a war for free, which is the most intense job ever, without any kind of pay. Like, imagine doing a job without getting paid, while your boss or director takes in all the cash, credit, or food without sharing. I'm not sure about you, but I'd be mad as well. This is a personal opinion of mine, but I think if Ramza was the one talking to her first, or even Delita, I don't think she would be as angry. After being defeated and injured, she also wants to be killed by Ramza, and again, she continues to get shamed by Argath for being lowborn. She ends up walking away though, as Ramza doesn't wish to kill her, but she is still more than willing to consider him as an enemy. So I could be completely wrong, but if Argath wasn't here and didn't say such things, there might have been a chance at negotiation. Although, I'm probably just speaking optimistically here. Miluda would still be headstrong in her ways of hating the Bayo family possibly. At Linalian Plateau, what I admire about Miluda is that she is a true warrior in all aspects. Despite being critically injured, she is more than willing to fight to the death. However, when it comes to talking with both Delita and Ramza at this point, there is no convincing her, due to her past experiences of hardships and Argath's words. What I'm on the fence about with the Sword Maiden though, is that what if she was in complete control of the Corpse Brigade? There is no way she would ever release Tetra, as you can see by the way she's talking with Delita, and that even though Ramza was kind in sparing her life and was trying to reason with her here, she wasn't having any of it. Although Ramza bringing up Dicedorg as well as Larg's name probably didn't help, as those two were probably the ones that didn't want to pay or honor the Corpse Brigade for their service during the 50-Year War. She also seems to be aware that even though Ramza has no idea about what happened in the past and had no direct involvement with the current issues the lowborns are suffering with, the fact that he is a Beowulf is more than enough reason for wanting him to be a sworn enemy. I don't really like this, but at the same time, people can relate to her, as chances are you would probably hate the relatives of someone who has done terrible things to you, even though those other relatives could be totally great and wonderful people, such as Ramza and Delita. Well, at least Chapter 1 Delita. She just had terrible experiences and was emotionally scarred as a young woman from the horrors of war, starvation, and with Dicedorg most likely, and probably thinks that Ramza and Delita would be no different. Lastly, I gotta bring this up again, Argath at the Brigand's Den just added more fuel to the fire. I dislike how she is stuck in a certain mindset, but at the same time, you can't really blame her. To wrap this up, I love how she is a true warrior and fights until the very end. And she wasn't a coward like her other Corpse Brigade officers, like Gragroth, who used Tetra as a last resort hostage, Gustav, who took bribes, and even Wiegraf sold himself out to the Knights Templar. On a side note though, I think she could have been pretty popular in Evilisa's next top model, if that ever was a series back in the day. Let me know what you all think of Miluda. I personally think she's pretty cool, but at the end of the day, it's all up to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.